Welcome to Kiss the Reviews. I'm Armando. That's Corey. And today we're doing 1996's Scream. Before we get started, if you want to reach out to Corey or I on Twitter, you can reach out to me at Junior D's. You can reach out to Corey at Idle Poncho. And let's jump right in. 1996 Scream stars Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott, Skeet Ulrich as Billy Loomis, Courteney Cox as Gail Weathers, David Arquette as Deputy Dewey, Matthew Lillard as Stewart, and Rose McGowan as Tatum Riley. This movie opens up with Drew Barrymore. And so Drew Barrymore was kind of the big draw in this movie. Mm-hmm. And because her name was attached to it. And she's in the movie for 5 seconds. So...
And to her credit, she is in the movie for 5 seconds, and it's one of the greatest opening scenes to a movie ever.
You were right.
And I think this is one of the first times, and please comment below if I'm wrong, that like the main star, the build star in one of these movies was killed immediately.
Yes.
It set up this whole movie where hang the fuck on because you don't know where this ride's going to take you.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing with this movie. When it came out, like Drew Barrymore I believe she's on like the cover of the movie. She was billed as like this big star in a horror film. Yeah, and everybody was super excited about it. And then she gets fucking whacked for his 5 minutes of the fucking movie.
Yeah, it was literally Drew Barrymore, that chick from Party of Five. And I don't know who the fuck these other people are.
Exactly. So,
and they all became massive stars.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it opens with Drew Barrymore getting phone calls from an unidentified caller. And she starts to panic when the caller starts to threaten to kill her, forces her to do movie trivia in exchange for her life and her boyfriend's life. Steve, the boyfriend, eats it. The killer breaks into the house, chases Casey, who is played by Drew Barrymore. He chases her across the lawn as her parents pull up into the driveway. They don't see her, and Casey's murdered, gutted, and hung from a tree.
Dude, when she's running towards her parents,
yeah,
you know, the parents are pulling up, and she, nah. I'm sitting there screaming at the screen, just like, throw your phone, bitch. What the fuck?
I said the same thing. Just toss the phone. Make any noise you can.
Yeah, fucking huck it, chuck it, football that thing right at your parents' foreheads.
Hug it, chuck it, football.
It's amazing how they set this up, how good of a horror movie this is, when in fact it is almost satirizing the horror genre.
Yeah.
And at the same time, somehow, is a love letter to horror movies because there are so many references in this to the Hello Sydney versus Hello Clarice.
Yeah.
Linda Blair popping up as one of the reporters. There's so many little things in here.
Oh,
if you're a real fan of horror movies, I mean, this is for you. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah. No, I notice more and more every single time I watch it, I notice another one or another two.
Exactly.
All throughout this whole movie. But after this whole opening scene, it cuts to, we meet Sidney Prescott, her creepy boyfriend, Billy, who's basically like broke ass Johnny Depp. Billy in this movie is Johnny Depp from Nightmare on Elm Street.
And he even sneaks into the fucking window the same way Johnny Depp snuck into her window.
Exactly. So we meet her. We meet the creepy boyfriend, Billy Loomis. He sneaks into her bedroom window right at the beginning, attempts to have sex with her by discussing everything in movie terms.
Nice solid R rating on our way to an NC-17. Lately, we're just sort of edited for television.
You know why? Because you're speaking in movie metaphors, you fucking nut job.
Yeah, nobody talks like that.
No, I'm going to get deflowered by somebody who, can be in real life, maybe?
Well, there's a formula to it. A very simple formula.
Did you notice when Billy sneaks in to Sydney's room right after Casey's killed that there's an acoustic cover of Don't Fear the Reaper playing in the background?
I did hear that. I did
I'm
hear
like,
that.
Fuck, they're just advertising this right away.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, listen, I get the whole like misdirection and this guy looks like the killer. Billy Loomis, first of all, is creepy, speaks in like these horror movie metaphors, and just his goddamn haircut. You're the killer. Sorry. And he's just got the face that like, I can murder you and pretend like I'm a okay guy.
When you're romantic, let's just make this a PSA. Hey ladies, Uncle Corey. Quick tip for you. If your boyfriend's romantic face looks exactly like your boyfriend's psycho face, he's a fucking psycho. Cut bait, run.
The next day we cut to school and everyone is talking about Casey's murder in the most callous way possible.
These
and it
kids
was
don't
like,
give a shit.
Bro, it's like, it's the worst is because they're walking into school and they're talking about this, and it's like, it's almost like that one case from last year, like oh, that's your mother. Right. Who the fuck we always talk about being bad friends. All these motherfuckers are bad friends.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If I know
at least
your
two
mother,
of them are murderers.
I know. If I know your mother's murdered, the word murder, killing, that's none of that's coming out of my mouth. At least around you. I'll wait to make the joke until you leave. But
no, and just to compound it, her mom wasn't even just murdered; she was raped and murdered.
Yes.
And her daughter saw what's like the key witness. She saw the guy leaving,
yes,
and then found her mother's raped and murdered body.
Yes.
And you're just casually like, oh, it reminds us of when your mom got fucking murdered, remember? Oh, I'm sorry. Fuck you.
There's the one scene where they're all sitting around the fountain at lunchtime. Like, this is the most callous of all of it because they're, it's hilarious. Like, this whole scene is awesome. Especially with, like,
in the 90s.
With, like, Matthew Lillard's, like, dad jokes.
Better live her alone. Live her alone.
How do you not know he's the killer right away?
I didn't kill anybody.
Sydney goes home after school because her dad's leaving for a business trip or something, and she's going to stay with Tatum for the weekend, and so she's at home waiting for her. Now, this takes place in California, does it not?
Yes.
Okay. Does the sun set at like 6:30 in California? Because Tatum says she'll be there at 7. Mm-hmm. Sydney's like, I'm going to take a nappy time. And then she wakes up at like 10 after 7 or quarter after 7. And it's like pitch black outside. I just thought it'd be sunny for longer. But that's just me.
It's different than LA, man. It's Northern California. It's all
daylight,
fucked up.
It was daylight savings time. Whatever. I don't know. So,
we'll find an excuse.
So she wakes up from this nap and she gets a phone call from the same person who calls Casey. She thinks it's Randy fucking around, but the caller brings up her mother's murder.
If you hang up on me, you'll die just like your mother.
Everybody loves to throw this thing in her face.
Yeah, throughout the whole movie.
Just constantly like, hey, your mom's murder. Blah! Hey, your mom's murder. Blah! Jesus Christ, what is wrong with you people?
They just skeet it all over.
Everybody's just trying to skeet this whole movie. Pathetic.
So the killer pops out of the closet, chases her around the house. Sydney locks herself in the bedroom. I actually really like her bedroom setup, how she's got the door. Like that's a dope, like she doesn't have like the door lock. Yeah. She's got the thing. Like that's totally cool. I like that.
The way they foreshadowed that as well earlier with the dad almost coming in the room when Billy was in there.
Yeah.
Trying to skeet. But yeah, I agree with you. I loved it. I thought that was it was an interesting twist on just locking the door and
Yeah, exactly. Because then you could still see the reason I like this, because the door opens a little bit so you could still see the killer and he's trying to stab through the door and all that stuff. So she gets 911 on the computer on like AOL. Like, I don't know.
I tried to do that like 700 different ways after this movie came out. It didn't fucking work. So I don't know if she had like a ALS kind of thing going on where she had like the deaf person dial system on her computer. I don't know.
You made 700 fraudulent computer calls to 911?
Well, I tried. None of them went through.
So she calls 911. Then Billy comes through Sydney's window again.
Yep.
And I get it. It's 1996. But I'm thinking to myself, because the cell phone falls out of his pocket, right? And she goes, a cellular telephone? You must be the killer because nobody has cellular telephones.
Yep.
In 96, okay. In 96, it's not like it is right now, where cell phones are just readily available to everybody. But back then, they were cheap enough and affordable enough. Now, you couldn't make calls between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m.
You were correct. It's fact.
Like, I had a cell phone in 96. So even when I saw this movie, I'm like, dude, me and all my friends have cell phones. I don't know why this is such a, like, weird thing. Like, you're the killer because you had a cellular telephone.
You made the calls with the cellular phone. It's been confirmed.
Well, it was interesting because the one thing they never bring up, again, about why Billy's there, Tatum was supposed to pick her up.
Yes.
How does Billy know she's still there? For all he's supposed to know, she's at Tatum's already. That dirty fuck is either A, stalking me all over town because I'm supposed to be at Tatum's, or B, he's a fucking killer because he knew I was home.
Yes.
Like, or C, he's coming in to, like, steal my fucking panties. Because, again, I'm not supposed to be here. Something's very wrong with that whole setup.
Which, if you look at Billy's face, he's totally a panty stealer.
Yeah!
He's coming in when you're not home and stealing a fistful of panties and getting out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's getting a scholarship to play lacrosse for Duke.
What?
The cops show up. Sydney runs down the stairs and out of the house and runs into Deputy Dewey.
And she fights. And this is one of the biggest differences I've thought with this movie versus some of the other ones is she actually fights. And not like Ronda Rousey kind of, like armbar killer. But like, it's not just dumb luck that things keep not killing her. She's able to fight and get herself out of these situations, which I like a lot. It's very different, especially from something like a Halloween, which they reference constantly in this movie, where Jamie Lee Curtis, it's almost by pure happenstance she gets away.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and when I first saw this movie, I was really upset. I get it now, but I was really upset that like the killer, Ghostface, seems like a bumbling buffoon. Oh, you get later in the movie with Tatum, like she hits him with the freezer door, and he literally just gets taken off his feet, and like shoulder blades hit the ground first.
Yes.
And then when I start thinking about it, I'm like, well, they're two high school kids, like trying to do this big, like, murder thing.
Yeah.
They're a little overzealous. So it makes more sense to me now than when I first saw it.
Stu even says that at the end when Billy gets him. He said, I think you were too zealous.
Yeah.
Like you went a little deep.
Yeah.
So you're exactly right. It's just that excitement and that rush.
Yeah.
You'll understand when you try and kill somebody.
She's taken to the police station along with Billy, where he's questioned and every police protocol is broken. First of all, they're questioning him and Sydney's like 2 feet away from him to where he can turn around and go,
Sydney, come on, you know me. Come on. Sydney, look at me.
He could just turn around during questioning and stare at her.
Yes.
No. That's not even how you identify somebody in a lineup. You're hidden behind glass. They're not supposed to be together. He has no lawyer present. His dad's sitting there like, I think this little fuck even did this. If you look at the dad's face, he's like, you're telling me my son's a killer? Duh.
And the worst question is,
What are you doing with a cellular telephone, son?
not to go back to, I had a cell phone in 96. It wasn't that uncommon. Plus, Billy seems like his dad has some money. Like, they all seem like their parents have some money.
Oh, yeah. And let's not forget, you still live in California, Sheriff. You don't live in South Dakota, where cell phones hit like 2 years ago. Like, they got the Razor flip phones and shit. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in California. You should see those everywhere.
Exactly. At the police station, Sydney is confronted by Gale Weathers. They sneak out the back, and Sydney punches her in the face, which is an awesome scene.
Yes.
And it's a very unexpected.
Oh, yeah. This is where I like where they show how egotistical Gale is. Because she's like, oh, I'll send you a copy of my book. Like, she's like, oh, of course, she's fine. She's a stupid kid. And then in the old kiss out.
Tatum takes Sydney back to her house. She gets another phone call from the killer who tells her, you got the wrong guy. And he actually uses the term,
looks like you fingered the wrong guy again.
Who says fingered?
Well, he just saw Fear, Wild Horses was playing in his bedroom. It was on his mind.
He was like, I totally want to get on a roller coaster with you, Sydney.
Hello, Sydney. This is where they really have fun, I think, starting to layer all of the potential suspects in here. Yeah. Because Henry Winkler is already a suspect because he's fucking flashing scissors at those kids in the principal's office.
What the fuck is that all about?
Which was the most psychotic fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. I was in the principal's office a lot. They didn't ever speak like that. That was fucking nuts. So he's a suspect right up until he isn't. Jamie Kennedy's a suspect because he's a movie nut. Billy's obviously a suspect. The only one who's not a suspect up until this point seems to be Stu. Literally everybody else is a potential suspect, including Dewey. Because he's, hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
That sinister fucking look and that pedophile mustache. Of course you want to kill kids.
So after this, it cuts to the next day at school. Sydney's attacked by the killer while she's in the bathroom, but she escapes. And in this bathroom scene, first of all, she goes into the stall and there's two chicks talking shit.
Yep.
Could they have found two older looking chicks to play high school girls? First of all,
it was like Mac and Charlie's mom from Always Sunny sitting there having a conversation. Just one smoking Marlboro Reds going, I don't give a shit.
Not interested.
But that's the one thing. The other thing is, again, with the callousness.
Maybe she's a slut, just like her mother.
First of all, keep your head on a swivel. Because I'm pretty sure if she was standing right next to you, you wouldn't be talking that kind of shit. Because bitch got a good right hook, and she'll knock your ass out. But keep your head on a swivel. How about you look under some stalls, like, just to make sure there's no other people that'll knock you the fuck out for talking some crazy shit.
I'm just like, how does this whole town, because it's brought up later by Rose McGowan, and obviously Billy and Stu know, how does this whole town know that Sydney's mom was just the town doorknob? And, like, Sydney doesn't know. Like, it makes no sense that everybody knows this. And Sydney's like, my mother? No, she would never.
Like she doesn't admit it to herself or outwardly until later in the movie.
Yeah.
That, like, I guess my mom was kind of a whore. But
I mean, it's fine. Do what you want. But at the same time, it doesn't seem very realistic how Sydney's just like, no, my mother was literally a virgin. I just happened to pop out because I'm from God. And then something awful happened to her. It's just, that's a hard one to buy.
This is where we actually see Henry Winkler, or Fonzie. So I'm like, oh, dope. It's Fonzie. It's crazy Fonzie as the principal, but
Hey!
He needs to settle down here. We talked about it a little bit, but he eats it like soon after he makes his cameo.
I like the Fred the janitor.
Yeah,
little dig in there for Wes Craven. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, he takes the scissors and that's the other thing, because he's like, I'll gut you. What if I gutted you like a fucking like?
Yeah.
Whoa, brother! Like, you need to fucking pump the brakes. You're a goddamn principal. You're not like a detective on the case.
Yeah, you're supposed to be shaping minds, not eating them.
Yes. Stu, Randy, and Billy in the next scene are in the video store. This scene is so good. It's such a good scene.
Every single part of this scene is fucking brilliant.
Yep.
Brilliant. The acting, the writing, the pace of it all, everything in this is perfect. And they give it kind of like the Don't Fear the Reaper acoustic. If you watch Stu during this whole thing, he literally gives it all away.
Yeah.
It's very clear who the killers are in this scene. And it's just, Matthew Lillard did such a great job.
Yeah.
Just with his nonverbal acting in this part. Oh, I love it. I could watch that scene over and over again.
Sydney's friends decide to throw a party because classes are canceled and a curfew is in place. Gail Weathers takes her cameraman to the party to like get an exclusive with Sydney, or just, you know, I don't know, decides to record everybody at the party because she wants to see some young D. Like, I don't know what's going on there, but she's like, cool, let's put a camera in here.
With the worst and biggest hidden camera ever made.
Now, again, going back to 96.
Oh, yeah.
Technology wasn't there quite yet with the smaller cameras.
But I think it's fun. Like, she's trying to, like, she slides in and puts the camera slyly behind her. It's like a fucking, like, you have a boom mic attached to the goddamn thing. Why are you being so sly? You might as well just hold it on your shoulder. By the way, those kids didn't give a fuck. They're all just star effing the shit out of Gail Weathers throughout this entire scene. She may as well have brought Kenny and the camera in and done exclusives with all of them.
They would have been cool with it. No, they didn't care.
I couldn't believe who's here. It's that chick from Top Story.
Gail Weathers. Oh, this is kind of where everything starts going. This is where it like gets really fast. And this is where Tatum eats it. She gets murdered in the garage when she goes to get beers and is killed in the garage cat door, which for me, it is both the greatest and worst murder scenes of all time. The scene, how it's shot, the way it looks, like all of that is fantastic. The absurdity of it is literally the worst.
You were right.
Yeah, dude, in 1996, the technology was there where if you put your foot on the line, the garage door would stop moving.
Yes.
You're telling me an entire body is not going to trigger that thing?
I just thought in the garage, there's so many other like weapons and things that you could have, like she could still crawl through the cat door and then you get, I don't know, one of the broken bottles and stab the shit out of her or whatever. There was just a bunch of different other ways that you could have that murder scene happen.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen the fight actually go on a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because she's winning the fight. Like, she's beating the shit out of Ghostface and then just goes, ah! And runs for the cat door.
Yeah.
It's like, no, keep it. Like, you're winning. And I get it. It's, you know, get him down and fucking get out of there. But at the same time, you don't have a viable exit available to you.
Yes.
You should know you ain't fitting. You can barely fit your titties through that fucking cat door. You think you're going to fit them hips? Squirrel, get the fuck out of here. That ain't working.
After Tatum gets murdered, Billy shows up at the party. He and Sydney go upstairs to have sexy times.
And if you notice, right before they go upstairs, when he first like appears in the door again and is like, bah! He kind of gives Stu like a little nod, signifying that, yeah, I just took Tatum out.
They go upstairs to have sex. And then after his vinegar strokes, the killer comes in and stabs him. Sid runs, gets away after falling out of the window into a boat. All hell is basically breaking loose now. So Sydney's running all over the place. The cameraman gets his throat slit. Gail tries to get away in the news van, which is also a great scene because it's all like the blood on the windshield and she's trying to wipe it away. And then she swerves to avoid hitting Sydney in the road and her car goes down the hill, hits a tree. She appears to be dead or knocked out or whatever. And then Dewey also gets stabbed in the back here as Sid's trying to go back into the house. Which, and again, this is another point in the movie where I'm like, why the fuck are you going back in the house? There's got to be another car. Just run down the road. Like, Get as far away from the fucking house as possible.
Why don't white people just leave the house when there's a ghost in the house?
Fucking white people.
Fucking white people. I gotta go back to the house. Sure, cool. So Sydney ends up going back to the house while Randy and Stu are trying to get in as well. Sydney has Dewey's gun, and they're both trying to claim that the other is the killer. And Sydney gives the line,
Fuck you both!
Her nonviolent reaction here is exactly the opposite of what my very violent reaction would have been. Because I would have kneecapped both of them and then said, fuck you both, and shut and lock the door. I got a gun. I ain't taking no chances.
No, I'll knee from here on to the end of this movie, I'm just kneecapping everybody.
Shoot them all and let God sort them out.
She gets back into the house. Billy then falls down the stairs. He's covered in blood. He shoots Randy and shows Sydney that the blood is fake, makes more, horror movie references.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Here's the big reveal. We're the killers. You're fucked. Let's go into the kitchen and finish this whole fucking thing up.
This is completely where their plan falls to shit.
Yes.
Because they make one massive fatal flaw. Do you know what that is?
Fucking taking a half an hour to discuss their goddamn plan instead of just fucking killing Sydney immediately
you
right
kill
here.
Her first, then kill the dad, then gut yourselves.
Yes.
What the fuck are you doing?
Well, it was like up until this point of the movie, because they also killed her mother a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
So they reveal that, and so they obviously planned a really great murder there because they got away with it, framed Cotton Weary for it. And then now they have all these murders that they set up throughout this movie. Everything is planned almost perfectly.
Oh,
and then it was almost like they were in their bedroom and their printer ran out of ink. Like, we're going to put the plan down, and they printed out all the pages for their plan. And they were like, I feel like there's a page missing in this. Is there a page missing in yours? Because they just
supposed to stab Sydney or each other first.
Like that, it made no sense. They also reveal here that her mom was fucking Billy's dad, and that's why this whole thing happened.
Your mom was fucking my dad, and that's why my mom left my dad and abandoned me. Nope. You know why she abandoned you, Billy? Because you're a fucking psycho and she couldn't put her car in a fucking lake. That's why she abandoned you.
Billy and Stu here go through the whole stabbing themselves to make it look like Mr. Prescott did it. This is where they're interrupted by Gale Weathers. Yeah. Gale Weathers comes in because Stu's looking for the phone or the gun, which I find like Stu in this is so good. Oh. Like, back then, I was like, you can't have comedy in horror movies and blah, blah, blah. Dude, looking back on it now, I love his role. I love his character, and he plays it perfectly. Like, he goes to get the gun, doesn't have the gun. You have, Gale come in, safety's on, Billy kicks the fuck out of her, and then turns around, Sydney's gone. Stu is now on, like, the kitchen counter, answers the phone. Billy's like pissed because he's a psycho.
Oh, he's in a full manic rage. Yeah.
Yes.
He's lost.
So he's going nuts trying to find Sydney. He's on the phone. He throws the phone down, and Stu gives the line like, "Fucking hit me with the phone, dick!" This whole part for me makes me fall in love with, like, if you could fall in love with the murderer in a movie.
Yeah.
Like, this is it.
Well, a lot of nut jobs fall in love with murderers in real life. Yeah. So why not? But yeah, no, he's perfect through this. Even when he says, like, when Sydney asks Stu what his motivation is.
Peer pressure.
So great.
I dig. I have a couple of friends that we all went to see this movie together. They hated that scene. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved every part of it. Billy's going around and ripping up pillows and yada yada. Sid pops out of the closet, stabs Billy with the umbrella, gets tackled by Stu, kills Stu by dropping the TV on his head. And again, 1996, TVs were heavy as fuck. So, yeah, could possibly kill you.
Yeah, like a fucking flat screen now looks like a golf club when you swing it.
Yeah, like if somebody threw a flat screen on your head, it might give you a paper cut. Like you might get a little like, yeah. Billy wakes up, starts choking her, and he gets shot by Gale. And again, Gale gives the line here.
Guess I remember the safety that time, you bastard.
Like, I like the one-liners.
Oh yeah, you have to have as many horror movie one-liners as you could stack.
And as you know, cliche as the lines are, I love this movie because they realize they're cliche, and that's why they're there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it takes a lot of like from the old horror movies. This movie was like the jump start into like a new genre of horror film. Mm-hmm. And so it's a little bit of like old school and new school, and that's what I loved about it. So
yes,
Billy wakes up for one last scare, and Sidney shoots Billy in the head, and the movie ends as Gale Weathers is reporting on the murders while she's also covered in blood from being part of the whole story. So
her arc is basically she learned nothing.
And if you watch the other movies, she learned nothing from this movie on. Like, she's almost murdered 400 times, and she's still kind of a bitch.
Yeah, it's just her character arc is a tiger doesn't change its stripes.
Yeah, self-centered. It's all about me all the time. You never know her true motivation for anything throughout this whole franchise, and which is kind of what I love about her character throughout all these movies. Like, Courteney Cox did such a great job with this. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. It was the perfect role for her. But
100%.
Dude, all in all, this movie is fantastic. I loved it at the theater when it came out in 96. I love it now. And I probably love it more now. And like we discussed, there's so many little things that I notice about this movie every single time I watch it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This movie is a love letter, and at the same time, one of the best satirizations of the horror genre.
Absolutely.
And it also, if any of you were actually alive during the 96 years, horror movies had started to kind of go the way of the dodo. They weren't great. They had really kind of fallen off, become cheesy, especially the slasher movies. And this really reinvigorated the entire genre. Yeah. And brought out a whole shitload of fantastic horror movies that hasn't stopped to this day.
Yeah. And the whole horror genre, like where you could have good actors in your movies. Mm-hmm. Horror movies, the budgets got bigger because this movie proved that you can have a blockbuster horror movie.
Yep.
So
you could have a realistic horror movie. You could have big stars in your horror movie. And if you put forward a budget to make said movie, you would get a good return back on your investment.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. No, all the way around. All the way around. I love this movie. It still holds up. Outside of them using the term cellular telephone entirely too many times. They use that term an uncomfortable amount of times in this movie. But outside of that and a couple minor issues, this movie absolutely stands the test of time. It still holds up, and I watch it every year for Halloween.
Oh, yeah. I think the only part that really doesn't stand the test of time is the opening scene where Billy's pressuring Sidney to have sex, because they would have canceled him well before he had a chance to murder anybody else.
Yeah!
So that's all I got. Do you have anything else?
No. I don't really think I... What the fuck?
What the fuck? Hi? All right. Well, with that said, for Corey, I'm Armando. This is Kiss the Reviews, and this was 1996's Scream.